If a week ago you were to tell me what I'm reporting to you right now, I would have bet against you and lost money. But what happened just happened. So there are Americans now in Belarus. There are Americans now observing the Zapad 2025 military exercises between Russia and Belarus. How did we get here? So about a week ago, Donald Trump struck a deal with Lukashenko to have 52, I think it was, 52 political prisoners released from Belarus. In exchange, Donald Trump removed some sanctions on a Belarusian airline, I think it was. And it seems like Trump is trying to court Lukashenko. It all is so bizarre. It's just even hard to imagine. But here we are. This is from the Kyiv Post. U.S. officers made a surprise visit to Belarus to witness the joint Russian-Belarusian war games Zapad 2025. This is according to Reuters. Again, according to Reuters, U.S. military officers pay a surprise visit to Belarus to observe the games. And you've just got to think back in 2022, it was after the war games exercise in February that they actually had the military assembled and invaded Ukraine. It's just bizarre to watch. Okay, U.S. military officers just made this surprise visit to Belarus, watching joint war games with Russia from the front row, days after drone incursion into Poland. So it's like you're being that chummy this soon after, and you got to be wondering, what's going on? Why is that presence there? Now, there's some theory, and again, this is theory. Some people are suggesting, well, Trump is just trying to be comfortable with Russia in order to peel Russia off against China. China's bad, and so we're going to try to, pull Russia off. I don't think that's what's going on. Now, if you were saying, and I understand it with the same theory, that you're trying to pull Belarus away from Russia and Russia's bad, okay, I could understand that, but I don't think that's part of Trump's motivation at all. And that's really the troubling part here. So here it is in Indian news. It's a little hard to explain or to listen to, so you have to listen carefully. There's no CC, unfortunately, but okay, here we go.
And two U.S. military officers turned up to watch the mega war drills being held between Russia and Belarus, a sight that is sure to leave NATO stunned. Belarus rolled out a warm welcome, even offering the Americans the best locations to observe the military drills. Take a look.
Yeah, they even offered the Americans the best locations from which they can watch the military exercises being conducted. So they're like honored guests. It's weird to watch. I mean, it really is. Just that they're over there shaking hands, acting like they're friendly. It's weird to watch. Yeah, it's strange. Okay, so now there's some context here, and here they are in the stands with the ability to see things. Officers with the visiting American delegation, which includes U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Brian Shoup and John Benson, watch alongside other foreign military delegations the ongoing Zapad 2025 exercise between Belarusian and Russian armed forces. It's all staged, it's all scripted, it's all choreographed kind of stuff. But nonetheless, that Americans are there watching it along with whatever delegations from whatever other autocratic states are there. It's weird. I mean, it's just weird. Okay, some other commentary. I wish this was fake news, but it happened. This is going over like a lead balloon in NATO capitals. Imagine how NATO is looking at this and going, what the what? What's going on? Or within Ukraine itself. This isn't remember, it was Belarusian soil that was used to invade Ukraine to begin with. This isn't the right signal to send it a day after Russian drones again flew into NATO. That's into Romania. And a day before that, when it flew in to Poland, it flew in through Belarus. Okay, something's just weird. Now, I don't think it's like a Nixon-China kind of moment. Remember what Nixon did was peeled off China, or tried to peel off China from, which doesn't really trust Russia, from Russia, or the Soviet Union rather, during the 1970s. But again, I don't think that's what's at play here. So RT India posted this, plot twist, U.S. military rocks up to Russia-Belarus drills with a handshake. Zapad 2025 saw Monday start with a photo op no one was expecting as the U.S. military showed up to the training ground. The American military attaché thanked the Belarusian defense minister for the invitation to observe everything that they wish. It's very strange. While Peskov is saying that NATO is de facto at war with Russia, and this is obvious, according to the Kremlin spokesperson, right? Well, but you're bringing them in to do that? Another commentary, this is NBC News, the presence of U.S. officers is the latest sign of warming ties between Washington and Belarus, a close Russian ally. It just feels all wrong, like we're aligning with the wrong side here. It's very, very strange to watch. And somebody else says it's amusing now, but it won't be amusing if one day we end up seeing joint exercises of Russia, Belarus, and the U.S. Can you imagine that? Or exercises where they come and see exercises of the U.S. or on U.S. soil. Okay, now I put out this video earlier after our live Q&A today where I said, hey, look, no one can honestly say that Trump is pro-Ukraine anymore. It just doesn't work. You have to contort yourself all kinds of different ways in order to make that kind of argument. I've not been making that argument. I've been saying, hey, he can go either direction. I'm looking for it and looking for it and looking for it and looking for it, and he just doesn't seem to want to do it. Okay, so where's Trump? So Trump was saying some interesting things. Trump did not rule out negotiations between Putin and Zelensky, but said they hate each other so much that it prevents them from talking. But notice that they hate each other so much as if it's the same thing on either side. Like it's equivalent. Zelensky just hates Putin. Putin just hates Zelensky. It's not all the same. But he did go on and say something else that was really interesting, placing the blame on the actual aggressor or identifying the actual aggressor. And that would have been the headline if this thing with Belarus wasn't just so weird. Okay, Trump escalates criticism of NATO allies over sanctions on Russia, while a top Democrat warns that the trade war with China is a separate issue from Ukraine. And so, yeah, what's going on with China? Well, Chinese foreign ministry, China will respond to NATO countries if they impose new tariffs. So he's trying to warn, because they don't want those tariffs, China will deliver a firm response to threats to its security if the G7 and NATO countries impose tariffs against the PRC over imports of Russian oil at the urging of the United States. So Trump was trying to, I think, trying not to have to do anything to Putin by saying, well, as soon as Europe gets off oil and gas from Russia, and as soon as Europe does these sanctions, we're ready to do it too, as if somehow that was actually like that was the bar or something. Now, the People's Republic of China is arguing if the legitimate rights and interests of the PRC are harmed, China will certainly take resolute countermeasures and will unwaveringly defend its sovereignty, security, and development interests. Why not punish Russia instead of Russia's buddies in India and China? But by trying to punish their buddies, it's trying to indirectly do what they should be doing directly anyway. Okay. Just a little bit more here. You only need to call out 5 countries, especially your friend Orban. So who's soaking up the pipeline gas or the crude oil? It's Hungary and then Slovakia. But there's also liquefied natural gas. That's a really interesting thing to this chart. Liquefied natural gas, France, Netherlands, and Belgium. That's who's doing that. And then I think Turkey should be on this map for soaking up something, right? I think they're soaking up some oil as well. Okay, now Trump did admit this: when you're the aggressor, you lose more. So for the first time, Trump publicly called Russia the aggressor. Publicly called Russia the aggressor in the war against Ukraine. Let's hear what he had to say.
Divided. When you're the aggressor, you lose more. I don't know if you know that, but in war, when you're the aggressor, you tend to lose more. But it was a little bit more for Russia, but it was 8,000, a little bit more than 8,000.
Okay, yeah. So he admitted it, even if he didn't really say anything more about it or say, the aggressor shouldn't have done that. He didn't go that far. Let's not get crazy or anything. But he did say this, which is actually kind of bizarre. He's talking about Venezuela now, and he seems to not be interested at all in Ukraine and losing interest in China and gaining interest in the U.S. hemisphere, including in Venezuela. Hopefully I'll be talking to Preston Stewart pretty soon about this. And Venezuela is something to keep your eye on. Donald Trump, answering questions about Venezuela, claimed that 300 million people in the U.S. died from drugs last year. Now, anybody could misspeak, but 300 million people, we only have 342 million people in the United States. So that would be a pretty high number. Okay, let's just say that it is, misspeaking. Okay, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Still, he's talking about Venezuela and drugs from Venezuela, and he's really focused on that. So it's been a bizarre day between being focused on Belarus and making good with them and talking about Venezuela. It's just been strange. All right, so let's end with this. Darth Putin. NATO wouldn't close the skies over Ukraine because NATO won't close the skies over NATO. I mean, that seems undeniable that NATO is not even willing to close the skies over NATO. Okay, another shout out to a Patreon subscriber. This is a graduate. His name is Chef Jim Comandona. So thank you, Jim. I appreciate your support. Thank you for being the kind of person that cares about the Ukraine. And thank you for the rest of you for the likes. And when you hit like, it helps this video spread. Thank you for doing that and keeping that in mind. Thank you for the comments. You help me understand things when you comment and help me clarify what I need to be talking about. Thank you for the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.